I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to go. I've waited all my life, but I ain't got time to blow. No, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to go. So cut me loose, sit back, enjoy the show. I'm ready to go.
Hello and welcome. That was Ready to Go by Paper Kings, and this is the Giant World of Baseball podcast, a podcast about international baseball and sometimes the San Francisco Giants. I'm your host, the Frilled Shark, or Jacob, if you please. In this episode, baby, we're so close. We're less than a month away from the 2026 World Baseball Classic, and I am fortunate enough to be joined by my friends Yuri Karasawa, aka Yaku Cosmopolitan, and Shawn Spradling. How's it going, guys?
Going well, man. Going
Yeah,
well. Good
doing
to see
good.
you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me, taking the time out of your busy schedule, Shawn, Mr. TV star. I think you're far too famous to be hanging out with the either of us now. So it means a lot that you're able to take a little bit of time out of your schedule and hang out with us. Yuri, I'm really loving the new pod with Brandon. It's part of my morning routine. Whenever I see it come out, I'm like drinking coffee and shaving before work in the morning. So it's a great part of waking up. And I mean, I feel a little bad because while y'all have been doing fantastic work, I've only uploaded like one video to my YouTube channel, and the podcast has been left high and dry since the end of 2025. But hopefully, I should be able to get a couple of things out before the WBC. I guess just like general check in with you guys. It's been a little while since I've talked to you guys face to face, especially Shawn.
Yeah, it's been good, man. Like you said, it's been very busy. I think it's funny. You were saying about like you've only been able to release one video. I feel the exact same way, even though like I've released a good amount of videos in the last like month or two, like more Instagram than I've ever really done. And yet, like there's so much when it is 20 different national teams, so many different stories, so many players that it's like it never feels like enough. So don't feel bad. It's like it's never going to be enough to cover all of the world of international baseball. I feel the same way, but it's been good, man. Yeah, it's been a whirlwind of MLB Network feature, foul territory, all kind of happened all at one time, and I'm never not going to have time for my day ones though, so
Oh,
don't
thank
worry.
you. That means a lot to me, man. And I was I messaged you, but I was jealous that you got to go to Italy. That looked like a lot of fun.
Oh, dude, it was a blast. I'd never spent any time in Europe, like on vacation at all. So that was really special. It was really relaxing. Spent time in like central Italy in the Umbria region for like a week, and then the last couple of days we were in Rome, got to do all of the touristy things. But the thing is, like in January, it's way less touristy. So you can go to the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, Trevi Fountain, and there's hardly anyone there. So I highly recommend Rome. If you're gonna go in the winter, just bring a coat and you'll be good.
Right. I mean, I feel like it's probably not even like that cold. I'm used to like Mediterranean climate like California in the winter. It's not that
Yeah.
cold.
No, it's not that bad. It was like, I mean, it got down to like 30s. So I mean, it was like windy, so that made it pretty cold. But if you're used to cold weather, it wasn't anything crazy at all.
Hmm.
So it was a blast though. It's kind of crazy seeing things that are 2000 plus years old and then being like, oh yeah, like Texas was just invented. Like
Yeah.
this, we just got here.
Yeah, right. Yuri, what about you? As I understand it, I think it got pretty cold in Japan this winter, right?
Yeah, it was snowing here in Tokyo just a few days ago, which is pretty rare, like happens, just a few times a year. I was also in Europe actually for December. I didn't get down to Italy, but got to spend time in Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Germany, countries like this. So that was fun. The off season's always for me like extra busy because all the guys getting posted from MPB to MLB, that's when fans are most interested. So
Right.
I have too many Tatsuya Imai and Munetaka Murakami and Kazuma Okamoto's stats like just memorized now off the top of my head. But I'm finally happy that they're entering spring training and I'm ready to send those guys off and then worry about the next batch of guys that are going to get posted this next year.
Right. Yeah. So anyways, for the folks at home, this is going to be the first episode of hopefully a series of pre-WBC podcasts on my channel. Like I remember Shawn did in 2023, 2022, lead up to the WBC, where he broke down a bunch of basically all the pools with some guests. I decided that imitation is the greatest form of flattery, and I would steal that idea. And I'm going to have a couple podcasts, so one hopefully for each pool, kind of breaking them down more in depth, really getting into the more nitty gritties of the rosters, hopefully with like some kind of expert type guests who like really know what they're talking about. So like Yuri and Brandon, hopefully for Japan and some of those teams in that pool, Shawn for the USA and some of the teams in that pool, Jeff Duda hopefully will be with me every single episode of those. He couldn't make it today. Um, and then some other guests I've kind of picked out who will hopefully be able to share their expertise for their respective nations. So that should be fun. But today, this episode is kind of more of like a big picture overview of the 2026 WBC, because I think that also is pretty valuable just for people to kind of get their bearings, people who haven't maybe been paying a ton of attention to the kind of news cycle with the WBC. But I mean, why don't we just quickly talk about in terms of like the news cycle for the WBC, kind of like maybe the general public sentiment you guys have noticed? Like Shawn, I feel like you probably have a pretty good like finger on the pulse of that in the USA. And then Yuri, like obviously you're all over like Japanese Twitter and the Japanese side of the internet. So I imagine they probably have some different attitudes to what people are talking about over here. So Shawn, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think if we want to start with the current news cycle, I don't think there's anywhere else we can start other than the dreaded I word in international baseball right now with insurance. I feel like just hearing that word at this point just makes me nauseous because I've had to explain to so many people how it works, and yet I don't understand it fully. So, and I always give that disclaimer of like, I'm not an insurance expert. Like I'm giving my insight to the best of my ability, of how I understand it. But there's so many nuances and so many complications, and that it's impossible to know the entire situation. But talking about that WBC insurance, it all boils down to like guaranteed salaries and like if like who is on the hook for paying these players if they get hurt in the WBC. And I know that I shared that video. It was like a long like 7-minute ramble of WBC insurance on my Instagram. So if anyone wants to go through the slog of listening to that, be my guest. But I think the one thing that I didn't get to cover in that because the reports came out after I posted that was that it seems like this is almost a reaction to money that was lost by the insurer from the last WBC. When a couple key players got injured and they lost a ton of money, then it seems like I feel like we can deduce that, okay, well, we lost all this money. We're an insurance company. We need to make money. So let's make it either harder to insure these players or more expensive. And I think we saw both of those. And I think that is why we see a lot of the players that have been denied insurance this time that maybe we haven't seen in the past. And it's confusing because insurance is always confusing. So unfortunately, Puerto Rico's been one of the biggest countries hit by that, and especially as a host pool, I can't even imagine how frustrating that is for them. But I think now that we are on the other side of the roster announcements and the roster reveal show, I think for WBC fans, international baseball fans, we can start to move forward and actually get excited about the WBC again, fully recognizing Puerto Rico's situation and that this is a really frustrating issue that they're in, but that we're still going to get an incredible tournament.
Right, for sure. And I mean, I think it's kind of like, trust is, what is it? Trust is earned in pennies and spent in dollars, or whatever that saying is, where it's like this goodwill is like earned in pennies, but it's spent in dollars because like, even though, we have this like blemish of, the insurance and then, like kind of a lot of players from like sort of those like kind of B tier countries, A and B tier countries not wanting to play, like Nick Pavetta and Jonah Tong come to mind, Gerangelo Saincha come to mind, guys who would have made a pretty big difference on teams that like are kind of like right on that line of like being good. And they're like, ah, no, I'd rather focus on spring training. And
Yeah.
that kind of thing in the insurance, it makes you forget about the fact that we have like both of the Cy Young winners pitching for Team USA. It makes us forget about Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto playing for Japan again. It makes
Mhm.
us forget about the great team Mexico's put together and that kind of thing. So as much as it's tough to say like, oh, move on, but like once we have kind of gotten past that, I think people will, at least in our neck of the woods, kind of get that hype rolling again. But Yuri, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about that, because like I saw people on English Twitter saying like, wow, like they're rigging this for Japan. Like, wow, Japan is just gonna get like this free like waltz to the finals or whatever because they're getting rid of like all these players from Puerto Rico and Venezuela through insurance. Like, I don't know what Japanese people thought about that, if they saw that, or what their thoughts on the whole situation are.
I'm gonna butt in here right real just for a second because it has to do with you, Yuri. For at one point it got so bad, like bad. I mean, understandable situation, but like I saw it so frequent where it's like it's being rigged for USA and Japan that at one point I was like, I just need to find a way to like, you know how like you escalate to a manager on the phone for like customer service. I was like, I just need to escalate this to Yuri whenever it's like rigging it for Japan. Go talk to Yuri. Go let him figure out what to do with this because he's more of an expert on this side. But you're right, it's been a lot.
Mhm.
I think it's funny because Japan and I guess Asia in general just consumes international baseball in a very different way from the US sphere, where in the US it's obviously like WBC once every 3 to 4 years. Your mind is mostly on Major League Baseball these other years, whereas Japan, Korea, these types of countries, international baseball is a yearly thing. You have it in usually before the season in March, and then after the season, you might have exhibitions. So it's really constantly in the consumption cycle. And Japan obviously does have certain advantages just by that virtue. Like they play together a lot. Everyone focuses on the national team. It's like the highest honor to obviously play for your country. And then the fact that the pools, just the way that they're structured, they're in an easier pool. That's just always how it is because of just how they're geographically oriented. You have a slightly easier pool than, say like Dominican and Venezuela that have to play together, these powerhouses. But that also comes with the caveat that Japan has to travel way more. Like they start, oh, the MLB players, especially that play for Japan, they are starting camp with their MLB teams in Arizona or Florida. They fly all the way over to Osaka, and then they go to Tokyo, and then they have to fly all the way to Miami. So it's
Yeah.
like the jet lag and just the difference in environment. That's a lot. Whereas a lot of the teams that are playing in the US the entire time, they don't have to deal with that kind of travel. So you have a little bit of give and take there. In terms of like the difficulties that a nation like Japan faces at the WBC, but yeah, the insurance thing sucks, obviously. Like this was shaping up to be the best WBC ever. I still think it will be the best WBC ever, but not having guys like Lindor playing, it definitely hurts. And Japanese fans want to see the best of the best as well. Like if Japan goes against Puerto Rico, they obviously want to see, Correa and Baez and Lindor there. So it's sad.
Mhm. Yeah, like to me, it just feels like I don't know. Like like I really did expect it to be like the best WBC ever, and I mean, it might still be. And I'm super excited to go in person for the first time ever. But there's still that little part of you which is like, oh well, I guess we have to wait to 2029 to see if we get like the perfect theoretical WBC, right? Which again, probably unreasonable to expect. Like every single player is going to play in another 3 years or whatever. But them's the breaks a little bit. Um, so why don't we go talk about a little bit of the rosters that were revealed? So we just got the roster reveals a little bit ago, and I mean, Yuri, you already made a bunch of videos kind of talking about Samurai Japan's roster because they were just like, well, here it is, all right, and everyone was like, great. So we're just waiting on one announcement for them now. But I mean, for the rest of us, we got that really great live show. I had a lot of fun. I personally thought they talked about the USA a little bit too much, but you know, that's obvious. It's MLB Network, like that was gonna happen. I guess like Shawn, were there any like really big surprises to you with the rosters and their constructions during that roster reveal show?
Uh, any big surprises? Well, it is funny. I had the same reaction to like, okay, like we've talked I didn't have an issue with how much they talked about the US. I think I had an issue maybe with how little they talked about or how quickly they moved on from certain countries.
Hmm.
Because I was on Instagram Live at the time and I was trying to like read off every single name to the people that were like on my live. And I was like halfway through the hitters and they were already moving on to the next team. They hadn't even like they already shown the pictures and I couldn't even. I do wish we were to the point to where they did show they did spotlight each country. I get how like they're going to show USA most because we are in the USA in the same way like in Japan they're going to focus on the Japanese team and then show all the other countries, but I do wish that we had a little bit more time to process them for the live show. But I think when it comes to like roster surprises, maybe I'm biased because I am going to Houston, so I've been just thinking about the Houston pool most. But I tweeted this out a couple, like maybe a month or two ago, and about how excited I was to see Italy's youth movement. I don't think I realized how much youth they were going to actually have on this roster. And I actually have a theory that I haven't made a video about. I'm going to make a video about it soon. I think that's intentional and
Hmm.
for reasons that we've talked about
Yeah.
already behind the scenes of like Italian citizenship by descent law has changed. It doesn't seem like that limit has been placed on this WBC though, because I feel like a lot of those players might not meet that two generation
No.
limit criteria. But I think that's going to be implemented in the future, whether that's the next WBC or two from now. But the thing is, when when you've played in the WBC already, you are then eligible to play in it forever.
Hmm.
So I almost think that it was intentional, like, hey, let's get as many guys in their like early 20s as possible to play for Team Italy, so that if this does change in the future, at least we got all of those guys for the next two, three, four WBCs. So like a Jacob Marcy, I wasn't expecting to see for Italy. I expected to see like Zach DeZenzo was a name that was thrown around. Caglioni was a name that was thrown around, but like it was cool to see both Dante Nori and Andrew Fisher, like get to play for Italy. There's a lot of prospects and young hitters, I think that are going to be a lot of fun to watch. To where I think they've boosted themselves into a dark horse pool.
Hmm.
So I think those are kind of the ones that have stuck out to me. Yeah, it's kind of what comes to mind first.
Yeah, I was like, I know we had talked about the eligibility thing, and I was like, so like they just get a pass, but apparently Great Britain, apparently Aroldis Chapman isn't British enough for Great Britain, but Italy's allowed to use the old rules. Like, I don't know what's going on with that really.
Can we talk about how about that graphic where it just says
Not
not British enough?
pretty good. That's me whenever people are like, "Man, why don't you just why don't you want to drink black tea with breakfast?" And I'm like, "Not British enough,
Not
man.
British enough.
I lived there for 4 years, but I'm not British enough."
It's the same thing with Weatherholt when he was like, "Yeah, I guess apparently I'm not Korean enough."
That one has gotten like some play in my friend group because my friends play like some of them play like Korean video games with some very Korean things in them, and I'm like, I don't understand this, and I just responded with that not Korean enough image. But Yuri, I mean, like, I know you kind of talked about like your thoughts on the Samurai Japan roster and kind of some of the inclusions, non-inclusions, but why don't you go just kind of go over them again and but the floor is open if you have other thoughts on like, you know, other teams and their potential surprises.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Japan, they announced their roster kind of in stages, late December, early January, and then obviously the official reveal, which added Masataka Yoshida. But I still think the biggest surprise is Sosuke Genda. And this, if you don't follow Samurai Japan that closely, you might be like, oh, why is he surprising? He was there in 2023. Sosuke Genda caught everyone off. You're like, what? Like Sosuke Genda's back on the team. He is coming off a career worst year. He had an off the field scandal. Everything was pointing to this guy. We're moving on from him. It's going to be a new tandem at short. It could be Yuta Izuguchi, Kotaro Korebayashi, Isami Nomura, Itsuki Murabayashi. They've been experimenting with a whole bunch of different guys there. And instead, Ibata goes with Kaito Kozono and Sosuke Genda, which is to me still a very unusual pairing. I'm not saying it's bad necessarily, but it's just like they go for Kozono, who last year started as a third baseman, then ended up playing a lot of short at the end of the year. He's not a good defender, but he won the batting title. He can hit. And then Genda, who's the safe hands. He's a veteran presence. He's going to be like the late game defensive guy. So I thought that was a little bit of a surprise. And then no Shinya Matsuyama, the Chunichi Dragons closer who led MPB with 46 saves last year. That also, to me, just doesn't really make sense. It still has me scratching my head because I thought maybe there was some injury related issue, but there wasn't, apparently. He said he was already preparing for the WBC and he just wasn't called. Um, I think maybe part of that is like he's a pure two pitch guy. So maybe Ibata like only wants guys that can give you like multiple innings or at least like finish one inning and then give you an inning and two-thirds or something. So maybe that's part of it. He's also, obviously a Chunichi Dragons player, and Ibata comes from Chunichi. He's a former player there. He has a relationship with that team. So maybe there is something there where it's like, I don't know, the Dragons don't want Matsuyama to play and he's doing them a favor or something. But those were the big kind of surprises to me. The other ones kind of make sense. No Shunpei Yamashita, no Tatsuya Imai. Like you can explain these with Yamashita coming off injury, with Imai first MLB season. Shohei Ohtani not pitching, that also kind of sucks. Like I know there's all the insurance issues, but I kind of just thought, hey, it's Shohei. He's probably going to
Yeah.
pitch,
He just does
but
whatever
he's
he
not.
wants.
So that's the big things. And then yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned it on the notes that Shun Mizutani is not on the Britain roster, so
Yeah.
I don't know if I expected him to be there necessarily, but that's a bit of a unfortunate thing for Britain.
Yeah, for that one, I just thought like I used my college level Japanese skills and I was reading some of the articles and the articles I thought, at least to me, made it really sound like he was basically confirmed and then he just wasn't there and there hasn't been any like, oh, he wasn't eligible or oh, the fighters blocked him, but the fighters haven't really blocked that many people, so I'm not sure that would have been what it is. So I was just kind of, wondering what was going on about that. I do have a question for you, Yuri, which is why do you think Shota Imanaga didn't make the final roster when a guy like, you know, I feel it's easier to justify like a Unk Imanaga opposed to like an Unk Sugano because he is a lefty, and when you're a lefty, you can get away with a lot more than if you're, a low velo righty, right?
I think with Imanaga, it maybe has to do with just the way he finished the last season with the Cubs, right? I mean, he was frankly really bad in the second half. The home run issue really flared up for him, and then he was almost unplayable in the postseason. And then the whole kind of qualifying offer thing where he surprisingly took it, like he clearly loves Chicago. I think he wants to focus on this 2026 season. I don't know if that necessarily means he was just like completely dead set against playing in the WBC, but he was kind of like borderline anyway. I think like, look, if he wanted to play, I would have put him on the roster, but instead they've gone with Yusei Kikuchi and Yuki Matsui as MLB lefties, and then they have Ryuhei Sotani is kind of the guy that, and Miyagi, the two Oryx Buffaloes lefties, are the ones that are kind of taking his spot. So, I mean, I think that's totally fair. Like in terms of Miyagi, this is a guy that had to be there. He is a superstar. And then with Sotani, young, potential, new face of the franchise, like post Miyagi for Oryx. So I think, having Sotani and Miyagi there as your two MPB Southpaws, as opposed to bringing in Imanaga, and I guess this applies to like the Kodai Senga thing as well. Not a lefty, but obviously a guy that some people wanted to see at the WBC, but he was on the 60-day IL, and he also just had the, bad second half. So I do think like the way you finish the previous season that matters.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, like some of the biggest surprises for me were obviously, well, Italy being as strong as they were was pretty surprising. I was surprised that Czechia got as kind of gutted as they were. Like I was expecting them to get like one or two more like heritage kind of guys. Like I thought if they were trying to ask Adam Mako, they would have asked like Sammy Staffora. the Slovak like first generation Slovakian American to play for them. And he wasn't on the roster. Apparently, Pavel Khadim only asked David Bednar and didn't bother asking Will Bednar, according to people familiar with the situation, which I think is kind of funny. But whatever. I feel bad for the Czech fans. I mean, the games still need to be played, but it's not looking too good. I was surprised that Brazil was like I'm not gonna mince words. I think that Brazil roster is pretty rough. Like I was like, oh wow, there's like Dylan Lee isn't suiting up for them. Like Boba backed out, whatever. New team or whatever sucks. But like no Dylan Lee. The guy on the Guardians, his name escapes me. Um, uh,
I'm blanking too.
yeah, no, he wasn't there. Also, no Caio Araujo. I thought he said he was
Right.
going to play.
Yeah. No Dylan Dubovic at
Yeah, Dubovik.
Miami.
Yeah, that was something I noticed. There really weren't that many. I think there's only one college player on any team, which is Justin Morales on the Netherlands. So like they didn't. I think a lot of colleges probably just said no. Like we want our guys here. Like at the start of the year. Speaking of the Netherlands pitching staff, I was prepared for it to be weird. Like I was like he like Andrew Jones said some things that were like raising some red flags for me. I was not expecting it to be as completely unhinged as it is, where it's like we have a bunch of like 35 to 30 to like 40-year olds. We have a bunch of guys who are younger than 20 years old. There's like no in between. And I was just like, you know what? Yeah, sure. Why not? That's fun. Let's have some fun, I guess. Yeah, those are kind of the biggest surprises for me.
I was also speaking about of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. I was surprised that they got a couple of guys approved for insurance that they did,
Hmm.
like Jansen, like Ozzy Albies. I could have seen a very real case for both of those guys to get denied insurance. So
Yeah.
I think the offense looks decent actually because they seem to have gotten most of their bats. But yeah, the pitching is interesting, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see a lot of those young arms. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like, outside of like Leo DeVries, it's basically like their dream team and Carter Keeboom. Okay, whatever. It's basically their dream team lineup. So, I'm excited to see how they hit, how they pitch. Like I still personally think the pitching like staff I came up with for them was like better than what they came up with. Like there's some of those some of those complex guys like Dylan Wilson. I was kind of like this has to be like you're banking on the stuff more so than anything else because he does have good stuff, just he hasn't been able to harness it, opposed to like I would have probably gone with like a Brandon Herbold who's like a lefty, and even though he doesn't throw as hard, he pitched in the ABL and struck out a ton of dudes. But
I will say one player that I don't know if this was just me not being as locked in with his rehab as I thought I was. I was pretty surprised to see Thiago Vieira like on
mhm,
the roster because he's been out. He had Tommy John. Like I thought he was. I didn't think there was any chance that he was actually going to play in the WBC. But I guess not being on an MLB roster, he didn't
mhm.
have to worry about insurance issues, and so he might be risky health wise, but doesn't have to worry about it. But I know that's a big name for in Japan as well
Yeah.
because of his time there. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch, even though they didn't get like some of their top names in MLB. I think that's a fun one. I think he's going to be electric. I like that Brazil has some DNA connecting the 2013 team, the last time they were in the WBC, to 2026. So that he's one of those guys. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's easy to have that through line DNA when you're rostering like 16-year-olds.
Yeah. Misaki, Vieta. Yeah, it's fun.
And what they're doing this time around, they'll be good through like the 2037 WBC or whatever, late through 2030s is some of their roster decisions this time around. Yeah, I think Vieira is I think he's playing in LMB this season, so I think that might have been have to do with it. But why don't we move on to actually breaking down the pools and kind of talking through them a little bit, sharing our thoughts. So starting out with Pool A in San Juan, Puerto Rico, where I will be watching pool play. We've got Canada, Colombia, Cuba, Panama, and Puerto Rico. I decided to go. I had kind of made up my mind to see this pool before all the insurance stuff, but I hadn't bought tickets, so I could have changed my plans. But I was like, you know what? I'd rather spend a week of my time on vacation in Puerto Rico opposed to Houston. No offense, Houstonians, and I couldn't get to Japan this go around. So, I mean, it should be a really fun time. Shawn, what do you think of like this pool?
I think it is probably the most pretty in this pool than any pool. And I think that Puerto Rico's unfortunate insurance situations has only made that even more competitive. Because I would have told you before, my opinion was it was Puerto Rico was maybe a half tier above a couple of those other countries. And then you had pretty much everyone else. And I think now after we see the rosters, I think that Puerto Rico is a lot closer to Canada, Colombia, and Panama than we thought they might be. The only country that I think is weaker than most people expected was Cuba, because there were a lot of names that were rumored that they might be able to get in MLB or at least in MLB organizations that they did not. They did not get very many of the names that were rumored. So I feel like they were pretty gutted, and that might be one of my surprises from the roster reveal as well, or at least the rumors and roster news leading up to the roster reveal. So I think that I'm glad that you're going because this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think every game is going to mean a lot. So I would not at all be surprised to see any one of those four teams make it out of the pool. We could see a repeat from Taichung in 2023 where every team goes 2-2. That would not be
Mhm.
a surprise at all.
Yeah, Yuri, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, this is a lot of parity, and I see a lot of people do put Cuba as the weakest team on paper, but again, I think there's also like a 5 to 10% chance they win the pool, like at 2-2 or 3-1. Like they have a lot of MPB talent here, and you got Rydel Martinez, Levon Moinello. These are two MPB superstars. If you piggyback them, they could single-handedly win you one game. Randy Martinez is now a prospect on the Chinichi system. So that's another pitcher. And then Ariel Martinez, who has kind of been lost in the fighters' depth chart since Franmil Reyes arrived, but he can still mash. Like he's still a good hitter. And then you have all these guys that have played in MPB previously, like Yariel Rodriguez, Yohan Lopez, Roel Santos, Alfredo Despine, obviously,
Ugh.
evergreen Alfredo Despine. He's like leads the WBC history in like every category because he has played in almost every one. He is like at this point 4 years removed from an MPB career, but still playing down in the Cuban National Series, DHing a lot. So I think Cuba's going to be fun. Obviously, I think like Canada's a pretty big dark horse. They have a lot of MLB talent there. Puerto Rico, even without their kind of stars, they're still a really good team. And then Panama, Colombia, I think are right there with Cuba as like potentially sneaking in and moving on. So yeah, this I think this pool out of all of them, it is the most unpredictable. Like you could have a team that you predict in first come in last, and vice versa.
For sure. I really, really like Canada. I just think like the all MLB lineup is like low key, like a really underrated strength. Just like that benchmark kind of baseline of quality expected of major league players, especially hitters, tends to like show up really big time in the WBC. And I mean, their pitching isn't bad. Like, Mike Soroka, Cal Quantrill, Adam Macko, Antoine John. I actually predicted he'd be on the roster to my friend Jace. I was like, "Do you think Antoine John will be here?" And he was like, "I don't know." And then he was, and I was like, "I told you so. He's nasty." Was University of Houston like one of the best pitchers out of their team?
Yeah,
I
he
think.
won relief pitcher of the year in college.
Yeah.
Like that's a big one for them.
Yeah, I remember seeing his stats because I'd just go back and I'd be checking on Paul Schmitz's stats after every start, and then I'd be like, "Oh, that Antoine John guy seems pretty good." But yeah, I mean, like, I think I would still probably give a slight edge to Puerto Rico just because they are playing at home, and I mean, like you said, like their team came down like a half tier to a tier, but like it's still a good squad. Like you still
Oh yeah.
have Elliot Lemuel Ramos Lebron. You've got, the Puerto Rican Seth Lugo. You've got Elmel, the pitching prospect for the Yankees. So I'm really, really excited because
Arenado.
Arenado too. Yeah, Unk still got it. Maybe we'll see.
And I like it's not like he's like perennial all-star level, but getting Willie Castro is like kind of a big deal because he's Dominican and Puerto Rican, and
Mhm.
a lot of people coming into the year were like, he's never going to play for Puerto Rico. He's Dominican. So like, yeah, they lost their big guys for sure. But I think they gained him and Arenado, who most people wouldn't have expected coming into the year. So I think it drops them maybe a half tier. But
Mhm.
I would still say the betting odds would probably put them in favor to win the pool, especially as the host in front of their home fans. But yeah, you will those games are going to be a lot of fun. And Yuri made a great point about, I mean, you put Levon Moinello up against anyone in this tournament, any other starting pitcher, and it's going to be a competitive game. So that's going
Yeah.
to be a lot of
Assuming he isn't sick with the flu like he was in the Premier League.
Yeah. Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah, yeah, like Yuri said, like him, Yariel, and Rydell, like if you manage their workloads correctly and you like space it out, like that's I don't want to say that's like two free wins, but like you're gonna be pretty competitive in two games if you manage those guys well. I'd be remiss to talk about Colombia and Jeff Duda's absence. They've got a lot of fun young players like Michael Arroyo, Mariners prospect. I believe I got to see him live in Little Rock last year. I think he played in Little Rock last year.
Nice.
Um, but they looked really good in the qual. I mean, okay, to be fair, that qualifier was a little bit of a joke. It was basically just like, okay, who's going to make the least amount of mistakes outside of Colombia? But they looked pretty solid. They have veteran pitching like Jose Quintana, Unk, who still got it, Julio Teheran, who looked like Roger Clemens in the qualifier. So they're not going to be taken lightly, and Panama has good players too. I'm just not super familiar with Panama, so I can't really speak to them that much. I think
Yeah.
Jaime Barria is on that roster, and he's kicking around like KBO, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of fun players as well. I was trying to pull up their roster while you were talking, and I haven't pulled it up in time. But um, I think didn't they get Ivan Herrera officially?
I think so.
And then the catcher for the Cardinals, I'm blanking on his name. In the minors.
Mhm.
They have a lot of fun catchers. I think we might see two or three catchers just in their one lineup. So
Yeah, yeah. Those problems are always
Yeah.
fun. Like when like the 2017 Netherlands team where like every single player was a shortstop and they just had shortstops at literally every position.
Yeah, Panama's actually kind of
yeah,
good. Like I'm
those
just
are
looking at their team now, and they have Alberto Baldonado, Javi
Mhm.
Guerra, Humberto Mejia. These are all guys that pitched in MPB last year. Um, they're not like gonna blow you away, but like they're capable pitchers that will keep you competitive. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how well they're gonna be able to hit, but getting like Enrique Bradfield Jr. is like big. Again, there's like every team in this pool has something going for them. None of them are perfect. But you have a lot of just stable, competitive play out there, I think.
Yeah, like you
like you go
can
to you go to Colombia and you see Quintana, Tehran, Nabil Crismat, and then you go
yeah,
to Panama and those guys you named, Logan Allen, Jaime Barria, but then
yeah.
you like Enrique Bradfield. Now I'm looking at the roster. Yeah, so we got Ivan Herrera, Miguel Amaya, and Bethencourt. Like all three are going to be probably starting, all three catchers. And then on the bench, they have Leo Bernal, who is a pretty highly rated catching prospect for the Cardinals. So like both of those teams are the two teams that we talked about least here, and yet both could easily like move on to the quarterfinals.
Mhm. Yeah, or Levon Moinello might just do his best Daisuke Matsuzaka impression and carry them to the quarterfinals. All right, so why don't we advance over to Pool B in Houston, Texas? And Sean, why don't you break this down for us?
Yeah, I mean, this is a really fun pool. I think that most people think they know how it's going to go. And I think that it is tiered. Like, I would say that everyone expects USA to move on, and Mexico to move on. The thing is though, like we've already talked about, Italy has a strong roster that I don't think many people expected. I think a lot of people were shocked by how many recognizable MLB names there were. So I would say uh, Italy's going to put up a fight to get out of that pool with Mexico. That Italy-Mexico game, and I believe that that is like Tuesday night, like the last night of the pool or the second last night of the pool. So that is going to, if it comes down, it might come down to that game on
Mhm.
who makes it out of the pool. And I think after that, Great Britain, I would say, is a stronger roster than Brazil, but not as strong as I was hoping. They were also a little bit missed out on a lot of the guys that I was expecting. I think that's the nature of the dream team beast, though. When I make my dream teams, I'm like, the expectations are here. And then we see, oh, this guy's not there. Oh, he's also not there. So I stay a little bit disappointed. But staying, like trying to stay objective about the rosters, like I love that Jazz is actually going to be able to play for Great Britain again. Him and Lucius Fox up the middle. That's going to be so
Just
much fun.
Giants
Like,
legend Lucius Fox, like $6 million signing bonus in like 2017, Lucius Fox or whatever.
oh man, 6 million? Are you serious?
Yeah,
I
like
didn't know
it wasn't until like I believe it wasn't until like Joshua Gonzalez and Luis Hernandez that they reached that amount of money given to like a pick or like a
that.
signing bonus since Lucius Fox, which is like one of those like, oh boy, great trivia. Thanks, guys.
Wow. Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, he didn't play in 2023. I think he's been out of affiliated baseball for a little bit, so I don't know if he's going to be the most. Uh, no, people aren't going to really expect much from him, but he's still, I mean, he was a big leaguer like not too long ago. So it's still a very like capable bat. And then you have a lot of the guys from last time, like Trace Thompson, BJ Murray, you have Matt Koperniak, obviously Harrison Ford, Sir Harry. I think it is really funny that you have two players that, in my mind at least, seem to be almost polar opposite personalities in Jazz Chisholm Jr. and Harry Ford are the co-captains for Team Great Britain. So I can't wait to see how that dynamic goes. Christian Robinson is going to be a lot of fun. Another Bahamian player, used to be a top prospect. Like a lot of prospect websites had him in the top 20 in like 2019 in all
Mhm.
of baseball. So that lineup's gonna be fun. I think their pitching is very lacking. It's still a Vance Worley led rotation with you have some prospects in Brendan Beck and Gary Gill Hill, but there's
Fantastic
not
name.
yeah, yeah, it is. There's not much proven big league talent on the pitching staff,
No.
so we'll see. And I think pitching is what is the difference maker in the WBC always, which is why you see a Japan always, or Levon Moinelo, hopefully for Cuba. Like the teams that have the pitching are the teams that normally lead their way through the tournament. Brazil, yeah, Thiago Vieira is a lot of fun. You have a lot of pitching relative to their offense. I mean, it's
Yeah.
still mostly like minor leaguers with Daniel Masaki, Bo Takahashi, who was leading the rotation in qualifiers. I fully expect him to start one game, maybe even piggyback a second. Gabriel Barbosa,
Has
Pedro da
moments.
Costa Lemos. Yeah, it's. I think that one of the more fun names that people are going to get to know in the WBC is talking about those like really young players. Joseph Contreras is one of the top high school prospects in the States, one of the top draft prospects for the MLB draft this coming summer. He's the son of former big league pitcher Jose Contreras, and I mean, it's so much fun to see these young guys like that. I think that's what makes the WBC so much fun because you have these players that are not household names. You have a Duque Hebert who is able to strike out the heart of the Dominican Republic lineup and then sign with the Tigers. Like those are the storylines about like that make international baseball and specifically the WBC so special. So. Like that, I would say that is Brazil's strength is their pitching. Their offense is it's mostly amateurs, like amateur baseball, which is not a bad thing. We saw Czechia have a great run in qualifiers and compete against, I mean, they competed against Japan, so it's not like Brazil's out of it,
Yeah.
but it is going to be hard to score runs for them, especially when they go up against a probably Joe Ryan or Logan Webb, because that's the back end of the rotation for Team USA. So in my mind, I think it's looking like Team USA should make it out. It's going to be a fight between Mexico and Italy, with maybe a dark horse in Great Britain if they can sneak out a win or two. And then I think Brazil at this point is looking like they're going to be on the bottom, hopefully hoping to avoid relegation, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yuri, what do you think?
There's no excuses for US to not like steamroll through this pool. Like quite frankly, they're just so stacked and better across the board than any of the other teams. So USA should top it, have a few mercy rolls in there. But yeah, Italy versus Mexico is like really tight. Like you look at Italy's kind of like core hitters and it's like, Mastroboni, Vinny Pasquantino, John Berti, Kyle Teal, Cags. That's a good group right there. And then Mexico has like Alejandro Kirk, Rowdy Tellez, the Urias brothers, Randy Arozarena, Jaron Duran, Alec Thomas. Like this is a really good group as well. I do think like Great Britain and Brazil are a class below. Brazil even more so, but I will say Brazil has a lot of players of Japanese descent who play like
Hmm.
industrial leagues in Japan, which is quite competitive.
Hmm.
Shout out also to Victor Ito, the shortstop, who
Yeah.
is an interpreter by day for the Hanshin Tigers and obviously a WBC player by night at this point. It's going to be really tough for them, but with guys like Bo Takahashi, Thiago Vieira, like I think they could upset Britain. Like it's not completely out of the cards.
No.
I don't think the British team is that good, to be frank. Like obviously having like a Jazz Chisholm at the top already elevates them by that very virtue because like, in a tournament like this, one player could just go like 4 for 4 in a game and win it for you. But I think Brazil will be all right. Like they're not going to get mercy rolled in every single game, right? And then I think it's going to be very interesting the Mexican versus Italian pitching. They both have some decent top end guys. Maybe the depth is a little bit weaker, but those two are much closer than I initially anticipated. I think Italy's like a serious dark horse. I mean, they already made it to the quarterfinals last time, lost to Japan, but I could see them getting past Mexico. Like it's not that big of a shock if they do.
For
I
sure.
almost think that Italy has maybe a slightly higher pitching ceiling, or
Yeah.
their high-end talent is better than Mexico, but I think Mexico has more depth, which normally serves you well in the WBC, especially when you get to the point at the end of the pool when they're matching up. So I think that the popular pick is Mexico. I think Italy's going to put up a great fight, and if Italy can find a way to like win, assuming they beat the bottom two teams. Going into that game, they should have pitching to compete, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the biggest Alessandro Ercolani fan on the planet. That guy, like, he had a higher minor league stuff plus than Cam Schlittler last year. And he's like maybe their four
Wow.
starter, or maybe in the bullpen. So like, I think you'd probably want to get two starts out of Aaron Nola in the pool play if he's able to do that. I think Sam Aldeguerri is probably going to stand on business versus like Great Britain or Brazil. And then Ercolani, maybe you could do like a Nola to Ercolani piggyback or something
You
versus
also have
Mexico.
Lorenzen, I
Yeah,
believe.
Yeah,
Lorenzen.
true, him too. Yeah.
So the rotation itself is honestly pretty solid with Nola, Lorenzen, Aldeguerri, Graceffo even. Like I could see him getting a start or at least piggybacking. Yeah, they're competitive.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, Great Britain is like, it's kind of like Schrodinger's team to me because I'm like, I look at it one day and I'm like, man, this team's kind of bad. And then I look at it and I think about it hard. I'm like, wait, no, they have actually a lot of affiliated talent. Like they could be good. And then I'm like, they have one left-handed pitcher on their team. And they're rostering like they're rostering like Vance Worley and Graham Spraker. And I'm like, no, this team's bad. And then I'm like, but are they though? I don't know. That's I look at like a Vance Worley and I'm like, all right, guys, like we could have gone to the U23 team and gotten like Zach Sahoski, who is a left-handed pitcher who throws 95 miles an hour here. I don't know. Maybe they did and his college didn't make him available. I don't know. But something I get accused by certain Brazil fans of being very anti-Brazil because I was very anti-Brazil in the qualifiers out of necessity. But in reality, it was that meme of like the guy crying, pointing the gun at the guy because he's like, "Oh my God, I have to root against like the construction worker who's like has three adopted kids." Because they're playing against Germany, where I think Brazil, like just the way they play baseball, which is very Japanese, let's not mince words about it, and the industrial league and the Japanese university like pitching talent they have on their team, like I don't think they're hopeless. Whereas, spoiler alert, I think the Czech Republic, as much as it really, really hurts me to say, being brutally honest, I think they're a little hopeless. Um, I Czech fans might get mad at me for that one, but
I know I get what you're saying. Like Brazil could find a like you piggyback Bo Takahashi, Daniel Masaki, and then you bring in Thiago Vieira and like find a way to bridge the sixth, seventh, eighth innings and with a couple of those bullpen guys. And if you can score a couple runs, like 2 to 3 runs, I could see that formula blanking like Great Britain.
yeah,
So it's not out of the question by any means. And
I
there's like they have a lot of like if we want to talk about like the pulse of the fans, Brazil is so excited. Like their fans, they lost Bo Bichette, and I think it kind of took a hit for a little bit. But once the roster was announced again, I think they're just so excited to be back in the WBC that I could see them riding that high and it really impacting the way one game could go. I could see them winning one game if it's like against Great Britain.
Yeah, for sure. I even think like I think about like Thiago de Silva, and I'm like, this guy is gonna pitch like Andre Satoria against some really good lineup. Where like Andre Satoria had Munetaka Murakami just standing there like a statue, looking at like a 70-mile-an-hour changeup just right down the middle of the plate. I think Thiago de Silva is gonna junk ball his way through like 3 or 4 scoreless innings against someone, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, he's 40 years old, but what do I know about baseball? Of course that was gonna happen. I think that's a pretty good place to move on from this pool with, and move over to Pool C in Tokyo, Japan. And Yuri, why don't you talk to us a little bit about Pool C?
Yeah, Pool C is the exact same as it was in 2023, except you got Chinese Taipei slash Taiwan replacing China. So that already by itself makes it quite a bit more competitive. But Chinese Taipei, they defeated Japan in the 2024 Premier 12 gold medal game. Like, let's not forget that these are the defending Premier 12 champions. Now, the caveat to that is
They,
Japan
they,
was
they would have qualified for the Olympics off of that.
yeah, yeah. And Japan was putting out, not their best team in the Premier 12, which kind of drew criticism afterwards. It's kind of like, is Japan, so good now at like the WBC that they're not taking the Premier 12 seriously enough, putting out like a C team. But still, like either way, Japan were the huge favorites on paper. They had like a 27 game win streak at major international competitions going into that, and they just got completely stuffed by the Taiwanese pitching. So they look really good. I think if Jeff were here, he would tell you that as well. Like he's been hyping this team up a lot. I see a lot of people that aren't that familiar with the Taiwanese players saying that they're like bad, but this team is not bad. They got Roshi Shu and Ruyang Lin. These two alone, I think, are going to be like top 20 pitchers in MPB this year. Starters, they're elite. And then you have Yilei Sun, who is a reliever, also in MPB. Junwei Zhuang is down in the deep depths of the farm for SoftBank, but another guy who has potential. And then you have all these like minor league prospects from the US like Yumin Lin and Wei In Lin. From the CPBL, you have closer Juan Yue Tseng. I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, but the hitting I think is fine as well. Like they have guys that have been there many tournaments, in the past. You have like Yu Chang, obviously, like always firing guys up. The catcher, Gili Gallo, I think is how you pronounce it. He was one of the only guys that could speak English at the Premier 12 when I was there as media, so we were talking to him a lot.
Nice.
Niantang Wu, former MPB player, and then Chen, who won the Premier 12 MVP. So I think Chinese Taipei is going to be very strong. They shouldn't beat Japan this time around because Japan has its best team, but they will be very competitive. Korea's right there with them, though, I think. I think because Korea's pitching looks so bad on paper, we are all going to just be immediately writing them off because they've been so poor in the last two WBCs. They got absolutely humiliated at home in 2017, getting knocked out by teams they really should not be losing to. And then they got upset by Australia last time. But they still beat like China 20 to nothing and in 5 innings, mercy roll in the last game of that pool. They can hit. And that's without Ha Sung Kim and Sungmun Song. Those are two big losses for the hitting. And the pitching staff obviously is not very good. They're going to be relying on guys like Dane Dunning with Korean heritage. And yet again, I look at the offense. You got Jung Hoo Lee, you got Hae Sung Kim, you got Hyun Min On, who's an absolute beast, 2 homers in the exhibitions against Japan in November. They got Jamai Jones, Do Young Kim, Siwon Ro. They can absolutely mash. I think personally their hitting is a little bit better than Chinese Taipei. And then finally, well, there's two more, but I don't have much to say about Czech Republic. I'm sorry. Australia. They kind of almost made a Cinderella run to the semifinals last time, right? Like they played Cuba very competitively in the quarterfinals. If they had, a bloop fall their way in that game, they could have made it all the way to Miami, which is kind of insane to say. They're going to have to try to one up themselves this time. It's going to be a lot harder. But much like Japan and Korea, they play at the national level a lot together. They're obviously in the ABL, which is a small league. Familiar faces with like Jared Dale, who's now in KBO. Last year he was in Oryx's minors. Rickson Wingrove's got pop. Curtis Mead, Travis Bazana from MLB Systems. Alex Hall had homered off Hiroto Takahashi in 2023. Tim Kennelly just retired from the ABL, obviously like veteran captain. But like Korea, I do think their pitching is going to be a bit of an issue. So I think Chinese Taipei and Japan clear cut two best pitching teams, and then Korea, Australia, I think can hit their way into potentially getting out of the pool.
Hmm. Yeah. So on the topic of the Czech Republic, it's a very similar roster to what they had at the Euros, which they played pretty well at the Euros. They didn't like, I mean, they finished third, I believe, which was, I think, their best finish. I want to say it was their best finish in the Euros ever, maybe. But it was a very good finish for them. But they just really like the problem with Czechia is like the pitching is probably going to be fine. Like in tournaments like the WBC where hitters aren't timed up and there's not that familiarity between like MLB hitters and pitchers, like pitchers they tend to perform outsized relative to expectations that you might place on them. The problem is the hitting has been really bad against teams outside of Europe. Like I'm sure Yuri, you remember like their exhibition games pre Premier 12 versus Korea and China and Taiwan and Japan. They were scoring like 1 run a game, like if that. And if you're scoring 1 run a game, asking like you need Daniel Padish, like the formula to win a game over Korea or Australia, the weaker teams in the pool would be maybe it would even be Australia instead of Korea. Would be you're going to score 1 to 2 runs, and you need Daniel Padishak, you need Michael Kovala, you need Boris Vacherka, you need Novak. You need those guys to be basically flawless, and I don't think that's going to happen. Is there a world where they could sneak a win? Maybe. They're kind of like a whole plays better than the sum of their parts kind of thing. But I just, I said earlier they're hopeless, and I think they're a little bit hopeless, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, Sean, what are your thoughts on the Tokyo pool?
I think Yuri gave a good summary of what I'm expecting to see as well. I think that it's interesting to see the online discourse about the Taiwan versus Korea, second place in the pool, because I think depending on who you talk to, your fans are pretty passionate one side or the other. I think that MLB fans tend to say Korea is the better team. They are the better baseball country. They have more history. They may not know the players, and so they don't know exactly why, but Korea is normally better than Taiwan. And I think that the international baseball fan almost goes fully the other way and says Korea has very much underperformed in the WBC. They are in a dark spot in KBO's full history. Like they do not have much pitching. And so I think then it's like Taiwan has the pitching and they have the depth and they've performed and they've won the Premier 12. So they are clearly the better option than Korea. I really think that I don't want to go either way because I really do see them in the same tier. I think that Taiwan has the better pitching, just like Yuri said, Korea has the better hitting. I'm pretty confident of that. So I think the matchup's going to be fascinating because I think they do actually match up pretty well. I don't think that Taiwan has like all of a sudden launched themselves to another tier that Korea is not in. I think that 3 years later from Korea's big disappointment, I, it's going to be interesting to see how they rebound from that because it has been 3 years. It's not like it was just yesterday. So I don't know if that's necessarily going to be like an imminent, like, okay, well, they're going to disappoint again because it's been like, because they disappointed last time. And I've
Yeah.
even seen some Taiwanese fans say, like, why is everybody rating us so high? Like, why do they think that we're going to beat Korea? Like, so I hesitate to balance like overbalance one way or another. I think that it's going to come between those teams, and that game right there between those two teams is going to be one of my
That,
favorite games to watch.
that's a great point about like Taiwanese fans not necessarily being that optimistic about their chances. Like when I was talking to Taiwanese reporters before the Premier 12, all of them were like, "Oh my God, we're gonna do so bad this time," and then they won the whole thing. But I will put out there like they didn't have their best players, but at the WBC qualifiers last year, they kind of did really bad. I mean, they lost 12-5 to Spain, and then they got shut out by Nicaragua. Like it's not like Chinese Taipei is an absolute guarantee to get out of this pool. I do think the talent's there, they're young, they're hungry, but again, I think Korea, their expectations are so much lower now than they were the last two tournaments that this could be the time that they surprise, actually. And then with Czech, I will say like they've played in Asia more often over the past 2 to 3 years. Like going into 2023, nobody knew. I mean, other than people like Frill Shark, no one knew about Czech Republic. But now that they've played more in Asia for exhibitions and they've sent people to like Team Europe. Like and then Merrick Kloop played in MPB last year, granted an injury,
Yeah.
cut his time short, but he was solid on the farm.
Mhm.
Patty Sack's another guy who he's on Oisix, not he's an unaffiliated MPB farm team, but he's been playing against like decent level competition. The Czech team does have like a much better base for playing at a tournament like this than they were before. And they
Mhm.
were already like decently competitive against Australia into the late innings back in 2023. So I don't think they're going to get completely embarrassed out there. But to me, it is very much between Chinese Taipei and Korea for that second spot. Australia could sneak in there, but I think it's going to take a kind of a miracle from them just because they already pulled it off last time, and I don't think teams are really necessarily underestimating them anymore. But Japan, much like USA, like they should have a very easy time in this pool. If they don't, that's a big disappointment. Could they get upset and lose one game? Possibly, but they really shouldn't. And that's even with Samurai Japan not necessarily putting out a team as good as 2023. I really think this is maybe half a tier worse than 2023 because they didn't get all the best pitchers. No
Mhm.
Roki Sasaki, Shinpei Yamashita, Tatsuya Imai, Otani, etc. But Japan has too much firepower to not top this group.
Yeah. I think that yeah, no, people aren't going to take Australia maybe as lightly as they did. And Australia has some, I look at the bullpen and I'm like, why is Warwick Saupold here? Why is Todd Van Steen still here when Brandon Benoit is not on this team, who is like the best pitcher in the Pittsburgh Pirates system? this past year. Maybe he was unavailable, but the Pirates tend to not block anyone. Maybe they think he can make the team out of camp. Maybe that's it. But there's just a couple like sort of there are a couple of absent players from minor league team from affiliated teams for Australia that I was kind of confused about. But I think that's a good place to move on from this pool and start getting closer to wrapping things up with Pool D in Miami, Florida, where the finals will also be held. In Miami, we have the Dominican Republic, the Kingdom of the Netherlands, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and a team, Israel, that I will not discuss that much about. So this is an interesting pool because, yes, it's pretty top heavy, and I think almost everyone expects the Dominican Republic and Venezuela to advance, which I would not say is the incorrect assumption. But I do think that there's potential for, an upset in a game with the Netherlands or even Nicaragua because they can pitch. I mean, the Dominican Republic, like they got basically their dream team. I mean, they lost Wandy or yeah, no, Freddie Peralta, not Wandy Peralta. They lost Freddie Peralta, and they don't. I don't know what's going on. What is going on with Jose Ramirez? I don't know what's going on with Jose Ramirez.
I
Um,
don't think I don't think anyone really knows why we don't see him in the WBC.
yeah,
It was
he's
it was the same situation last year where he was like, I'm gonna be there. I'm in. And then it comes to like a week before and it's like, oh, he's not on the roster.
the
Sorry.
I literally said that. I was like, he said I'm in. I'm like, no, dude, he's literally gonna back out at the last second. Watch this, and it happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like Venezuela. I thought Venezuela was going to be a little bit more depleted than they are. Just kind of based on the preliminary reports, I thought they were going to have more key pieces missing, just kind of based on some of the insurance stuff. But no, they got a really good squad.
Yeah.
And really, I think they're only missing Jesus Luzardo, right?
Yeah, I think they're missing a couple of bullpen arms. The sentiment from Venezuelan fans is that meme where you have like the drawing of the horse and it's
Yeah,
like the front of the horse is the like a beautiful drawing and it's the offense and then the pitching is like the scribbles in the back. I've seen
yeah.
the meme a couple times. So they definitely missed out on a couple of their guys, but they still have, I mean, like you said, Pablo Lopez, Ranger Suarez, you have Jose Alvarado, Edward Bizardo. They have a lot of pitching.
Yeah. And then the Dominicans are the Dominicans. If they, they've proved us wrong about, thinking they're instantly going to finish first before. So the games have to be played, but one would think they're going to finish first.
Yeah, exactly. I would say like the Dominican Republic is in a similar boat to Venice to Japan and USA where it is fully expected for them to get out. And I think the reason that they not the reason that they didn't, the reason is they underperformed last time. But I think what made it possible for such a strong team like Dominican Republic last time to not make it out of the pool was a top tier of three strong teams. Every other pool in the WBC had one or two elite teams. That was the only pool that had three. So when you lose one game to Mexico, USA still is pretty sure that they're going to be in. Even if Japan lost to Korea, they're still going to make it to the next round. But when you have three teams on the top of that pool of death last time with Puerto Rico, Venezuela, and Dominican Republic, you lose one game and it is quickly going to unravel if you're struggling in the next game. So I don't see that happening again because I don't see a third team like Puerto Rico was last time in this pool.
No, I think if the Netherlands had not had some unfortunate injuries to their pitching, like if the Netherlands rotation was Gerangelo Sanchez, Antoine Kelly, Sam Robertson, Tom DeBlock, and they had Leo DeVries, I think there might be that conversation about them being like a three, kind of like a three-team pool. But they Gerangelo Sanchez declined an invitation to play, then he got traded. Sam Robertson is still recovering from Tommy John. Tom DeBlock had a serious injury at the Euros, and suddenly you're looking at a pitching staff that is rostering multiple 18 and 19 and 20-year olds and hoping for the best. Because you look at that rotation and you're like, man, I love Antoine Kelly. He should be a top 100 prospect. And then you go past him and you're like, I guess Kevin Kelly's probably going to start a game. He pitched really well in the Euros, and he was pitching in Nicaragua in the winter in their winter league, and he pitched all right. And then you go past him, and you're like, oh man, I guess Chiron Martis is going to start a game because he's going to get the WBC innings crown and surpass Daisuke if he does. And Jaitwan Kelly, maybe? I don't know. And you're like, I think this team might be in trouble. Honestly, I think there's a non-0% chance the Netherlands could get relegated. I don't think it's going to happen because I think their offense will probably save them that embarrassment. But, Nicaragua, honestly, really good team. Like they got a bunch of good pitching. They're really just missing Loaisaga. And they have basically their best case lineup, I think, right?
Yuri, do you want to take that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not all that familiar with the entire Nicaraguan team, but I will say Jeter Downs is a great get. Jeter
Yeah.
Downs was not only a very productive hitter for the SoftBank Hawks, the championship winning team last year, but also, I mean, a utility man. So he can really play all over the infield. And I think he raises the floor of that lineup a lot. And yeah, I mean, the pitching's not that bad. We saw them in the WBC qualifiers. They were able to pitch their way into getting to this point, pull off an upset, like I said, against Chinese Taipei, shut them out. So I think Nicaragua, I would say, is like the team that maybe will surprise people. A lot of people are going to put them last place to get relegated. I don't think that's necessarily a guarantee. But in general, for me, Pool D is the most straightforward. It should be the most straightforward. It's
Mhm.
Dominican and Venezuela at the top, and I don't think anyone's really close. It wouldn't shock me if Venezuela even beat Dominican, just because that's such a rivalry game, two Latin teams. You know, it's already going to be like one of the most hype matchups in the entire tournament.
Mhm.
And with the exception of between the two of them, like Ellie De La Cruz, Jose Ramirez, Jose Altuve, those are, big losses, but everyone else is basically there. Like these are two basically stacked dream teams, at least in the lineup side. Pitching could be better. And I do think like when you compare DR to the US, that's the one area where US is just clear cut better. They have two Cy Young winners. And then with DR, it's like, they have a lot of their best guys like Christopher Sanchez and Sandy Alcantara, but that's just not quite the same. I will also shout out for Venezuela, you have Andres Machado. For Dominican Republic, you have Albert Abreu, two MPB pitchers. So it's funny that they were able to sneak their way onto rosters that are this good. Machado in particular he throws hard. It's like a turbo sinker, and he has closed a lot of games for Oryx in the last few years. I think he will get he will surprise some people in this tournament. Seventh inning, shut guys down, and then Abreu was previously with Cebu Lions, and then he went back to playing minor league ball in the US. He did well in Dominican League, and now he's coming back with the Chunichi Dragons to potentially start. So Albert Abreu also might be a sneaky, like, good addition to this Dominican pitching staff. But yeah, I would say, when you look at the lineup, like Dominican might be the best lineup literally ever assembled in baseball history. It is good.
Yeah. And that's even without Rafael Devers.
Yeah, no Rafi, no Ellie, no Jose Ramirez, and it's still so damn stacked.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Giants, in that this is going to be my way that I'm going to connect to Nicaragua and recognize that all three of us have an affinity for their manager.
Yep.
And so I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch Dusty do his thing with Team Nicaragua. But I agree. I think the pitching is really solid. I think they showed that in qualifiers. And we get to see Ronald Madrano one more time represent Nicaragua rather than Spain.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. But yeah, Jeter Downs, they got arguably the best hitter in their player pool in Mark Vientos.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's gonna be a big one because I think 3 years ago when we were making like mock lineups for the 2026 WBC, it was like, oh, Mark Vientos is like he's kind of he's the man. Like he wants to play for Puerto Rico. He might even play for Dominican Republic. He cannot make those rosters at this point. So I think that him playing for Nicaragua makes a lot of sense. And he's going to like he already made a trip to Nicaragua and looked like that was a great time for him and got to connect with family and friends and the team and that's going to be a fun storyline to follow.
Mhm.
Mark Vienna playing for Nicaragua, and I will say like Israel has a couple pieces. I think that like Cole Carrig was a surprise to me. I had no idea that he was eligible. That one kind of came out of nowhere. And the one pitcher that like I don't think that they have hardly any pitching depth, but the one pitcher that stood out to me was Ryan Prager, who pitched at Texas A&M, which is my alma mater. He's in the Guardians organization, was one of the best pitchers in college baseball in 2024. Did okay in 2025. And I think he's only in low A right now, but it'll be an interesting arm to watch. But I think it's pretty straightforward. Dominican Republic, Venezuela for me as well.
I saw Tommy Canley on that pitching graphic for them, and I laughed very loudly.
Yeah,
Um,
that was
yeah,
another surprise.
yeah. I mean, it feels like it's pretty straightforward, which sucks for me because I really would have loved to watch the Honkball Spielers play Honkball live at some point. And I would have loved to, I mean, I've been talking to Louis J about it a bit, but when their rotation might have JC Solveron and Chiron Martis in it, and I see them, they post them running poles in the Netherlands, and I'm like, dang, they got the nursing home putting in work in the off season. um, yeah, it's a little dire. But why don't we transition into talking about real quick a couple players we like, and then maybe some final predictions for the tournament, and then have everyone go on their way. So, Yuri, why don't you start off with? Do you have a player from each pool you're really excited to watch play?
Yeah, I do. I think from Pool A for me, it just has to be Levon Moinelo from Cuba. He was the Pacific League MVP last year, the first Cuban-born MVP ever in MPB history. He has basically never been bad as a professional. He joined SoftBank as an 18-year-old, pretty quickly made it to their bullpen, became an electric setup man, then a closer, then he transitions to a starter, and then he's like instantly a top three starter in MPB. This guy is legit. Um, you know, because he's Cuban, you're more than likely never going to see him in MLB, but he's very happy in Fukuoka and he is a stud. So I would say Moinelo there. Pool B, I don't think we mentioned him when talking about Mexico, but Alexander Armenta is Moinelo's teammate, potentially the
Mhm.
next Moinelo. Um, Big lefty, big stuff, nice curveball. And I trust SoftBank's pitching development to get a lot out of him. He was striking out almost 30% of batters on the farm last year. You might see him make his MPB debut this year. Again, I think he's going to be quite impressive, very young and experienced. So, obviously a big stage for him, but going to be great experience. Pool C, I will say Shota Morishita for Japan. Shota Morishita is going to go a little bit overlooked, but he was a top two hitter by OPS plus in MPB last year, and he is very quickly trending upwards, much like a Seiya Suzuki type. I mean, he had cleanup at the Premier 12. I got to interview him before the game against USA, and he was just a very articulate guy talking about, when the differences he sees between facing like domestic Japanese pitchers and foreign pitchers and their like mechanics and stuff. So I was very impressed with Morishita, just the way he thinks about the game and then his play on the field. I mean, again, he's getting better and better every year. We might see him as the starting center fielder, even though he didn't play an inning of center in 2025. So that will be interesting that they don't have Lars Nootbaar now. So Morishita, Ukyo Shuto, one of those guys more than likely is going to be in center. Pool D, I'll just throw Andres Machado out there for Venezuela because I think he can be a shutdown reliever.
Mhm. Sean, what about you?
Yeah, I think let's go with San Juan first. I let's talk about Puerto Rico because we've focused on the players that they don't have, and I already mentioned him earlier, but I think that having a utility guy like Willie Castro is going to be huge for them, especially without Baez, who could have played middle infield, could have played center field for them. So that's going to be a big one. I think that he's a really solid bat, but I think his utility in the field is a big is going to be a big help for them in a flexible, like his defensive flexibility. I think if we move to Houston, one player on Mexico that I am really excited to see his inclusion on the roster. I thought his brother was going to be there in Tirso Ornelas, but Julian Ornelas is a great outfielder, and he's only ever played in Mexico for the last couple of years. Like he's his career, like you look at his numbers in LMB, and he looks like a guy that could compete in MLB, like in affiliated ball. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he like made it to the big league someday if he were to come over. He's still only like 28 or 29. Like he's a young guy, but he's perennially at the top of the like OPS leaders, home run leaders in LMB. So to see some like LMB star make that team and have a spot with Jaron Duran and or Randy Rosarena and Alec Thomas, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see him actually get to play for his country when I think most people thought that his brother Tirso, who's in the Padres organization, was going to be the one that made it.
Hmm.
Um, if we go to Tokyo, it's so hard for me not to pick Shugo Maki for every question, but um, I'll say I'll say I'll say Max Durrington for Australia. He is the top prospect in their player pool. He's maybe slightly performed in the Rays organization. He's an outfielder. I think he's still like 18 years old. But the reason I picked Durrington is because I think this team is aging, and this is the last tournament for a lot of their top bats. So the next WBC comes around, or even the Olympics, and it's going to be led by Bazana, Mead, and we really need him to be the one that kind of comes into his own as the like marquee top name coming out of Australia in the last couple of years. So I think Max Durrington is going to be a really fun one to watch. Hopefully he gets a lot of playing time. I don't know if he plans on starting or not. I think I honestly he was on the bubble. Like I'm talking to people that were knowledgeable about the roster. Some people thought he was going to make the roster, some people didn't. So I was really excited to see him be included on the senior national team. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then I'm missing a pool.
Miami,
Miami?
yeah.
Miami. Hmm. Miami. I'm gonna say, how about I haven't thought through all of the teams yet. I want to come up with a good one.
Okay.
How about I'm looking at I'm looking at Netherlands roster now to try to impress you. I'm not going to talk about Drew Jones because I know you have feelings about that one. Um,
He's
but
he's he's basically just Kaylan Nakasia, but slightly better.
uh,
Delano Salasa might honestly be better than him.
let's go with let's go with I'm gonna go to Venezuela and go with Michael Garcia
Okay, that's a good one.
because because I don't think people realize how good his 2025 was. He had a great season. And he's also like great bat, top of the lineup for them. And not having Altuve there, I think is kind of frustrating for a lot of Venezuelan fans. And I think that he fills a high average bat void in the lineup now that Altuve is not going to be there. But he also has defensive flexibility. Like I think that he's a third baseman, but he came up as a shortstop. And he can also play a little bit of outfield. Like he's had a couple of appearances in the outfield if needed in like the corner. Because I think they only rostered three outfielders on Venezuela's
I think
on
I
team.
do remember seeing that. Yeah.
So like I remember seeing that and I was like, what? Like what are they gonna do if one of those guys needs a rest or they're like up by a ton and they need to bring someone else in so that Acuna is not out there for 9 innings every game? I
Right.
could see Michael Garcia maybe getting an appearance or two out there, but they have I think shortstop could go a bunch of different ways, whether it's Andres Jimenez or Ezequiel Tovar. But if they want to like have if they want to put Michael Garcia at shortstop, he can do it because he came up as a shortstop and he has a great glove. So I think that's
Mhm.
a pretty big versatile piece for Venezuela.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. For me, going to San Juan, I'll talk about a Puerto Rican player. I'll talk about Elliot Lemuel Ramos Lebron. I have his jersey, Puerto Rico, like the Borican like version of the national team jersey that I got. When he hits the ball, my God, can he hit the ball far? Um, I sure hope the reports of him playing better in the outfield are true because I'm not sure they want him in left field for the team. I guess maybe he could DH though. But I'm excited to see if his defense has improved enough to stick him out there. For Pool B in Houston, I mentioned him previously, but I'll say him again. I love Alessandro Ercolani. I think he's probably going to strike out some like major league talent, and people are going to be like, "Oh my God, this stuff plus! How do I not know about him? How is he not in the top 30 prospects for the Pirates?" And I'll be like, I knew about him. I knew about him, guys. I've been saying he's good.
Kind of like when
Um,
Yariel Rodriguez started the tournament in 2023 and everybody was like, spin rate. Oh
Spin
my
rate. Oh
goodness.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
the
Shota
same.
Imanaga. He's a higher stuff plus than Shohei Ohtani. Ah.
Uh,
Um, for the Tokyo
sorry to throw
pool,
you off.
yeah, sorry, no, that's cool. For the Tokyo pool, I'll go with Jung Hoo Lee because in the Bay Area, we love Jung Hoo Lee. Oh my God, does San Francisco love that man? And I'm excited to see if he's playing in right field for Team Korea. I don't know if he is. I haven't seen anything about that. I'd assume probably so, since he is going to be playing right field for the Giants. And he's just like he can put together some really beautiful pieces of hitting. Like he's got a really nice swing when he connects. I love Jung Hoo. I'm excited to see how he does. And for Miami, I have to mention the Netherlands. I'm gonna say the Kelly brothers, Jaituan and Antoine. I've been on Jaituan since he made his debut in the Arizona Diamondback system, and he is a really, really advanced 19-year-old pitcher. Like, oh my God, he can throw he can throw cheese. He can put it on the corner. He's a big dude. He's like 6'5". I think he's going to pitch pretty well in the WBC, and people are going to be like, "How are we getting blanked by like a single A pitcher or whatever?" And of course, my guy R.A. Franson, may he get a contract after the WBC. Um, I'm sure he'll have a great moment, and I'll get to post the video. But yeah, those are it for me. I guess real quick before we wrap up, who do you guys think is going to win the 2026 WBC? Your
USA.
USA?
USA, I think. As much as I would love to say Japan, I do think part of what's important about these like WBC previews is we set the expectations, right? And I
Right.
don't think Japan's the favorites this time just because they won last time. They went undefeated last time. They have done back-to-back before, back in '06 and '09, but USA's pitching is considerably better this time. It's one of the best pitching staffs ever assembled. I also think DR, like their lineup is just going to be a really hard to get through. In Japan, it's just not going to be as easy for them this time because they don't get the extra quarterfinal game at home. They have to go to Miami. They must get to at least the semifinals. They could get knocked out in the quarterfinals, which would be a disaster.
Yeah.
The expectations for Japan is semifinals at worst, hopefully at least hopefully the final. And then
Mhm.
if you lose to USA, then no shame in that. But I have to say Team USA wins it.
Yeah. I worry a little bit. Like I'm like, man, starting Yusei Kikuchi against like lineups full of all-stars who are intimately familiar with him and can prepare against him. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but okay. Sean, what about you?
I will I will counter Yuri's humility and say Japan wins. So, because we have yet to be proven otherwise. Japan wins tournaments in international baseball that they find a way to win. And also somehow they find a way to be underrated. So I'm not going to let that happen this time. I'm not going to let you say that that the pitching is weaker, which yes, there's some big names not there. But you still have Yoshinobu Yamamoto, you have Hiroya Miyagi, you have Hiromi Ito, like you have guys that if they find their way through the pool stage without putting a bunch of pitches on their top arms, I could easily see them piggybacking, like just like in the last WBC when they piggybacked Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki. Like that is ruthless for any other team.
Body.
Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of pitchers that they could do. Japan could throw 3 innings, 3 innings, 3 innings, and or 1 or 2 innings at the end, and could beat really any lineup. And in tournament baseball, like even against the U.S., like anyone can go cold. And if Munetaka Murakami finds a way to like be the latter half, the end of the WBC version of himself for the whole tournament. And the MLB world finds out about Kazuma Okamoto now that he's in MLB, and they learn about Teruaki Sato and Shota Morishita. Like, I could easily see a way that they could win again.
Mhm. I mean, another thing is like, obviously the Dodgers probably don't want Yamamoto doing more like ridiculous heroics in a playoff format, but like he showed in the WB in the World Series, like he could probably like if you worked around with the pitch count, like he could probably do a lot of it himself. You know. That being said, do I think? Because here's the thing talent wise, I think the United States should win. I'm just not sure they'll play completely cohesively enough. And like, I feel like they might beat themselves at some point and lose because of that, if that makes sense. So I'm not sure if I can like really pick them. So I might just say it's the Dominican Republic's turn to win, and I think their pitching will get it done because their pitching is pretty good, even though it's not like top tier. Um,
Okay, so we rounded out the top tier of teams. All of us pick one team outside of those top three teams that's the most likely to win. Who would y'all say?
outside the top three,
I would probably say Venezuela.
yeah,
I think Venezuela is probably the clear-cut fourth best team. I think you could put like a Mexico or a Puerto Rico in there and a couple of the other dark horses. Like I see a lot of people obviously putting like an Italy or a Canada like in their dark horses, but I just don't think they're like finals caliber. These are more like if you get to the semifinals, that's a huge achievement. So I would
mhm.
say Venezuela.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. I might, I might say. You know what? Screw it. I'll just say Italy. Let's go. Forza Italia. Forza Azzurri. Ah,
I wouldn't be surprised, man, if they make a run. Like, again, tournament baseball is so different from 162 games or even like a 7 game series. It's
yeah.
one game. So anything can happen. You could have Michael Lorenzen on the mound, Aaron Nola on the mound, and they can win some games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you, Yuri. I think that it's Venezuela. I think that they have the high-end talent and they have the depth and on both the pitching and the on the hitting side. And I think that is an equation and they have the rage from the game last year in 2023 of losing to Trey Turner, which anytime that gets retweeted in our good friend Daniel Alvarez Montez on Twitter, will like he'll like mute me. If I ever tweet that, he will mute and block me forever. Uh, so yeah, I think that
Yeah.
they're hungry. They're going to be hungry.
And
Yeah.
Omar Lopez I thought he did a very good job at the Premier 12.
Mhm.
Came close to beating Japan there too, but Shugo Maki hit a grand slam and flipped the score in that one. So,
Yeah, he did.
yeah, I think Venezuela, like, again, it is a very clear tier at the top, those three, DR, USA, Japan. But to me, if anyone belongs with them, it would be Venezuela.
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, I'm sure Luis Ariz will hit like 750 for the tournament or something.
The surprise
Uh
last time was when he
Exactly.
hit 2 home runs in that game against USA.
yeah, I do.
That's
Like
right.
it was his power. It wasn't his average. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's like when Ichiro's like, actually, I can turn it on. I can turn the power on whenever
That's
I want to. I just
Kaito
choose not
Kuzono
to.
moment.
Yeah.
I don't hit home runs though because it's not my game. Anyways, thank you guys so much for joining me. Sean, Yuri, why don't you let the people know at home where they can find you? I'm sure they already follow you, but just in case, you never know.
Yeah, I think that I feel like you're so uh, down on the iceberg of like the bottom tier of like international baseball fans that I feel like there's mostly an overlap of all of us three. So
Yeah.
thankfully there just doesn't need to be too much plugging. But Yeah, on X or Twitter and Instagram mostly, it's at Shawn_Spradling. If you like international baseball, if you like the WBC, if you like learning about different cultures and baseball experiences around the world, feel free to follow me.
Mhm.
I am at Yaku Cosmo on basically everywhere, but mostly on X. That's where I am most active. And you can also find my writing on Japan Ball, Just Baseball, and World Baseball Network. And of course, I'm now doing a podcast on Japan Ball to talk about Nippon professional baseball multiple times a month with Brandon too. So check that out if you want some insights on MPB.
Thank you. Fantastic work always, Yuri. I love, I love the podcast. Brandon always brings such great insights. And slick new logo for Yaku Cosmopolitan. This whole thing is
Appreciate it.
is out of date now.
It's a vintage
Um, yeah, vintage now.
Vintage, yeah.
I can't give it away or anything. Um,
now.
all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I'm sure we'll be talking again real soon for your respective pools. I can't wait to break those down in more detail, and I can't wait to see. I hope Shawn for sure. Yuri, I don't think are you coming to the States for the WBC or just Tokyo?
Just Tokyo, just Tokyo.
Darn. Well, I'll have to get
We'll
out to
start a
Japan.
GoFundMe to get you a flight.
Yeah, I mean, I make okay money. I'll get myself there. I don't need people's charity to get myself to Japan. I'm sure I'll take part in one of the Japan Ball tours at some point. But thank you. Can't wait to see you guys in person. And for the people at home, please like, comment, subscribe, and leave a rating wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, see ya.
I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to go. I've waited all my life, but